What's up? What's up, everybody? Shout! So, I wanted to talk to you guys today about a subject that's very near and dear to my heart, right? Uh, and that's God. 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 So, so you know, we think of the Bible, right? See, like the first time I ever talked about the Bible, read the Bible, the words inside there became truth to me. Truth. And I'm not necessarily saying Jesus or, you know, specific names in the Bible. You know, the name Jesus and the way, the truth, and the life. Uh, that becoming a no one goes through the Father except through me, right? Well, and then he says, if you if you have faith, you can do all these things that I can do and more, right? And that we all go through the Father, and the reason Jesus said that we go to the Father is what? Through Him. Well, through Jesus means through His example. His example being transferring dark negativity, anger, resentment into goodness, wholeness, purity, right? Is shunning off the darkness that's inside of us and choosing the light. And that's what I believe Jesus was really talking about. He says he says if he says and the reason we use Jesus' name is because he is he was the living example for us on earth to go by, to understand, right? So yeah, we're gonna go see God. We're gonna go up to God. But quiet. So hold on just a second. Shut up. Here, come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. Inside. Come on. Come on, dude. Come here. Come here. Come on. You wanna go outside or not? Alright. Sorry about that. My dog was crying. Um, so the whole point of the Bible being, Jesus being the way, the truth, and the life, is because through His example we can live a life that's meaningful, that gives us purpose, right? That doesn't mean that this 3,000-year-old book that was rewritten by a Roman Catholic, oligarchy that wanted to hold people to a certain standard still holds strong today. I mean, the words in the book, the principles in the book are everlasting. That's why when I first read it, I saw truth in it, right? But it doesn't mean that we have to hold it straight. See, I don't I don't know. Have you ever So we make choices in our lives, right? And depending on the choice is the outcome of a situation. And I think if I'm right, we've all been in a position where okay, now do I pick this or do I pick this? And then depending immediately on what that decision is, what the outcome is going to be, right? So if you hold fast to, for me, if I held fast to truth, right, that that automatically the whole situation transferred. So it's like finding a big old bag of money or a big old a wallet full of money, right? And you have, it's got the guy's ID in there and this and that, and you have a choice. You throw out the ID, take the money, and be on with it, right? But or you take the ID and you look in there and you find the guy's phone number, or you mail the whole wallet with all the money in it to the guy, and you give it back to him, you bring it back to him, and you return it. Well, that choice that you have, say you run into the guy, you go to his house, you give him his wallet, he's like, whoa, that was cool, man. You know what? Here, take the money. Thanks for bringing my wallet back. And you're like, whoa, I didn't expect that, because you were just doing the right thing, right? Now, that's the type of thing that I'm talking about. When Jesus did things, he did them in a way that promoted the light, promoted the good things, promoted healing, promoted, strength, promoted by doing the opposite of what the masses were doing. Back in the day, the masses were, having slaves and this and that, and he was actually freeing slaves and freeing captives and doing the opposite of what everyone else was doing. Because the mentality back in those days was just rough. It was just rough. I mean, if you weren't strong and you didn't take, chances were you weren't going to have. And the same thing can go today. We got gangs, we got this, we got that. And so we're all left with a choice. Are we going to be part of the light or part of the dark? Are we gonna hold people down? Are we gonna hold ourselves down with this narrow-minded view of things? Or are we gonna choose to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing and hope and get the blessing at the end? Which is, if we do what everyone else is doing and it's dark and sell drugs and shoot people on the street or do drugs and damage our bodies, or are we going to do what the narrow path is, which very very few people are living a righteous life, an upright life, and a promising life in the aspect that Jesus did, like through humility, truth, honor our mother and our father, live according to the things that promote life, promote a pure spirit, promote meekness and authenticity, those things. Do we live a life that way, or do we live a life, the way everyone else in school is doing, smoking cigarettes or, doing drugs or whatever? Like, are those the things that we do? Like, that's what free will is. Free will is, we have an opportunity to live one way, or we have an opportunity to live another. And, when... All right, so let me tell you another story. So, when I was younger, I really didn't really think about any of this stuff. I was like not for pity, but I was a kid, and I was all, soft and meek, and kind of, because of my upbringing, held back, like, oh no, you can't do this or you can't do that, and, so I was always like the, quieter kid, but when I played like a regular kid, but people just, I didn't have very many friends. People thought they could bully me or whatever. But when I was younger, as a young adult, everything was cool. I got a job. I started doing air conditioning. I was learning, and there were no rules because I didn't have any bills. I didn't have anybody that relied on me. I didn't have to have this in order to do this, or I did, but I really didn't care. And I was in a lot of ways ignorant of the things that adults have to do. So that's why I say ignorance is. They say ignorance is bliss because before I cared, before I thought, before I did things, before I didn't care about the future or the or anything ahead of time. I just lived ignorant. Live ignorance. They say ignorance is bliss. Just because you know before I had to become an adult, I was ignorant. But now I'm an adult, everything was easy. Bliss. It was bliss because I didn't care about none of the stuff up front of me. But then when I become an adult, I have to start thinking like, okay, I have a child, I have to feed him, I have to pay my rent, I have to pay my car payment, I have to, wash my clothes and do these things in order to have a good, rest of the month, right? That's why they say when I became an adult, everything kind of got harder because I cared too much. I care about things. And so when we start caring about things, things seem to be difficult. They seem to be difficult because we're used to living life a certain way. We're used to living life like, okay, well, I don't care about this, I don't care about that, blah, blah, blah. But then so when we start caring, we realize, okay, these are all the habits that I've had that now I've got to change if I want to have a more prosperous future, right? Or if I want to live the rest of my life in harmony with the things that I desire, that I need, that I want in my life. You know, we no longer think of like we never just do things not weighing the consequence of it. And when you live a life according to like the emulating a person like Jesus, right? We hold him in this God position because what the things that he did were godly. They were pure. They were holy. And what do you think of when you hear holy? What's holy? What's holiness? It's a purity. It's like a little baby. A baby is holy. It's so pure. It's so innocent. There are no flaws in a little tiny baby, right? The baby doesn't start to show signs of, you know, badness or whatever, quote unquote, until it starts to learn certain things, like, maybe it'll say a cuss word or whatever, or it'll throw something across the room. But that, even still, that's not like a bad thing. That's just innocence. Innocence. It just doesn't know any better. And so when Jesus says, hey, we need to live, unless you act like you become one of these children, you certainly can't enter into the kingdom of heaven, right? So what's the kingdom of heaven? The kingdom of heaven is freedom. Is freedom. It's being able to have a life that's fulfilling. It's living with humanity and getting along with them. These are the good things that we look forward to. I know when I got out of jail, and I went back to my family's house. And my family, they didn't do it. At a certain point later on, my dad didn't do drugs in the house, and it was the safest place I knew, right? And when I went back to there, I just felt like, oh, thank God I'm home. You know what I mean? Because I no longer have to worry about this or have to fight for this or I didn't have to it was just easier, right? Just to be without any of these other fights and arguments and talk and all this kind of crap that goes on in jail. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven can be here right now. the bliss that everybody searches for is here already. We just have to get into the perspective of seeing it, and seeing it. And how does that work? Well, that's like the law of attraction and all those things. Those things really do work. It's like, you can attract that heaven into your life by seeing things through a different lens. And the things that skew that lens are things like drugs that darken your body, that damage the body, the cigarettes, or hatred, or greed, or envy, and being envious, and all those things ring true. But by avoiding those types of behaviors, we can create an environment of heaven right here where we are, no matter what's going on around us. And I think that's the point that Jesus was getting. He goes, if you have faith to do the things that are pure and honorable and righteous, then we can, create this heaven on earth. We don't have to abide by these laws. They say the closer you get to God, the less rules there are, right? So if I'm already living a life righteous, the less worries I have of this law coming after me, right? Well, so that's the whole point of this is is it possible to have heaven on earth? And I say yes, there is. Yes, there is, because the less things that I'm doing, quote unquote, that break the rules, the less things I have to worry about catching up to me, or throwing me in jail, so to speak, like cancer, or blindness, or whatever it is. Like if you're fighting in the streets, you could get shot and killed. But I don't have to worry about that because I'm not doing those things anymore, right? So I think that's the whole point of heaven on earth. Now it says, okay, well, what about the spiritual stuff? Well, that is all spiritual principles, because we know that drug use is bad, but it's the lie, the spiritual lie, that has told us, no, it makes me feel good right now. When I do it, it makes me feel good. And there's no repercussions to feeling good, right? Well, wrong. That's the lie. That's the darkness. That's the deceit that we want to tell ourselves just to justify what's really going on, what our decision is. We want to justify that we decided to do drugs even though they were wrong. We knew they were wrong, but they felt good. So we justify it by saying, oh, it made me feel good. There was no repercussion. Knowing that, we're going to get addicted to it, and, we see other people that are addicted to it, and their lives go to crap, right? So that's the whole point of this, of what Jesus was talking about. He's all, live by these principles, live by these laws. That's why they say God has rules. Yeah, there's rules in the universe that we have to abide by in order to have this harmony, this peace on earth. And it took me a long time. When I first met God, man, I was all on fire, blah 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 blah. I was just like Bible thumping people, and everybody needs to come to Christ, and and yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I realized that I was doing more harm than I was good. I was pushing away the kingdom of heaven rather than bringing the kingdom of heaven in. Why is that? You ask, why is that in? Why? What? How could that work? Well, it's because no one wants to go from a bunch of their darkness into a bunch of rules, right? They want peace. And so when I come at them and I say, just say this, and just say that, and just say this, and just say that, you have to do this, and you have to do that, or you go to hell, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute, dude, that's a whole bunch of rules, man, and I'm not even tripping on right now. You know what I mean? So when you come at someone like that with this dogmatic viewpoint, they're like, stay away, bro, because that looks like a bunch of rules that I don't even know if I can even follow right now, right? And that's the point. Someone told me one time, he said, a preacher said, don't be bad by being too good. And that meant don't push people away by being this holier than thou type person, because it's like, wait a minute, dude, I'm so far away from that I can't even perceive that right now, dude. Like, that does not even sound like an easy road to travel, bro. And then you say, well, this guy that lived 2,000 years ago, he did it, why can't you? And it's like, nah, I mean, okay, and then you say, well, what about the Holy Spirit? And, this feeling that we all got, and, well, when I read the Bible, and I gave my life to Christ, this happened and I did this happen. That's because you gave your life to the spiritual principle of wholeness, of truth, of righteousness, of holiness. Now think about this. Think about this. God, think about the word holiness. What is holiness? It's like a bright light. It's like a bright light that doesn't have a speck of darkness in it, right? Just think of it just pure gold, solid gold, purity, nothing in there, no dark, no silver in there, no nothing. And it's just this pure light beam. And then say you take this light beam and behind the light you put something behind there, and then the light starts to get dimmed, right? Well, think of God, the Creator, who created everything perfectly. Our earth and everything in here is perfect, like you, right? So what happens? We're all pure. We start out perfect. There's nothing wrong with you. You weren't born into sin. Sin was here, and we fell into sin by choices that we made. But when you're pure and perfect, and then we start adding these things, these worldly things that are created by man, quote unquote, because of wherever they are in their life, but they create this thing, and then they start to put a little stick in front of the light, right? So the light gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer and dimmer until what? Until it's totally blacked out, snuffed out, right? That's what quote unquote sin is. That's what our choices are. Our choices are we going to do things that bring us back to the light, that keep us pure and bright and unadulterated, or are we going to make choices that dim that light, put darken that light, and that's the whole point. See, God who created everything is purity, just a bright beaming light, and we're part of that bright beaming light, right? So when we're bright and we're pure, just like God, we have a perfect communion with Him. You know what I mean? And then our light, our godliness, shines out into the world. Our source, our pure holiness, shows through us, and we multiply that purity, that holiness on earth. So if we give into that purity, that holiness, and we choose to live a life holy, then we multiply that holiness on earth. And everyone has the same opportunity to do that. And you can start anytime you want, right? So, when they say, hey, give your life to Christ, that's a beginning. That means you believed that he was purity, he was sinless, right? He was pure, he was holiness. You believe that, and that if I emulate him, if I believe on that, that I could be that same. That's why everything's scratched out. You got a blank slate, right? You're pure at that point, right? So now you choose to be pure, be a bright light under the earth. Well, you could do that anytime you want. You could do that every single day. You could do that 10 times a day. And you could start over and start over and start over and just try again. It doesn't have to be through one person or thing or that. These religious churches, these religious constructs, and not that there's anything wrong with the whole idea of it, right? Not that there's anything wrong with it, not that but what if I told you that you are a church in itself? The Bible even says that. You are the church. You can either multiply the holiness or you can multiply the evil by your choices and the things that we do and the things that we say. And all of these things are 100% accurate because I've lived both ways. I've lived both ways. And I can tell you that, when I made choices that were in alignment with were closer to holiness, to purity and love and peace and joy, my body felt better, my radiance shone brighter, the people were more excited to talk to me. But when I was living a life this way, I kept myself away, I pushed people off, I cussed, it was not attractive, things like that. And that's what the whole point of spirituality is. Your spirit is what you make of it. That's bad spirits and good spirits. What's that all about, Ian? And what's a good spirit or a bad spirit? Well, no, it's a bad spirit is nothing more than a person who's made choices that don't line up with life. And a bad spirit is people who had that blockage going behind the light, and their light was dimmed. And that's all that is. It's a lighter, or brighter, or dark. It's a more bright or dimmer light. And that's the whole thing. Well, you say, well, what about these entities that are dead and alive and all this, and how come we can say, well, oh, well, it's the same thing. Those are people. Those are your brothers and sisters that have died, living in those during the darkest choices of their life. Then that spirit will live on at that point. At whatever place it was, or it goes back to purity. Because the spirit doesn't. Your soul doesn't die. I don't think that there's if you want to live in darkness, you can live in darkness, and that's your choice, and that's what free will is. But I encourage you to, live as pure and as bright as you can. Is that easy? Hell no. Hell no, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. I mean, you live a life that's, you live a life one way for so many years. It's almost like second nature. It's hard as hell to change that. But it's possible. And that's what the whole reason I started making these videos is to show you a journey of what it takes and how, what it takes and the things we need to keep doing in order to become that get back to purity, and that's what I hope to have shown you through my videos. I'm not doing this for glory. I'm not doing this for anything like that. I'm doing this just to be part, just to be part of a solution. Not a problem. And if you call me the sacrificial lamb because of that, then so be it. You never know, man. I could fail at this whole thing, dude, and just burn. But then I'd be doing exactly what I set out to do, and show you that that it's a difficult road, and that the choices that we make will either help or hinder us. And there's things that we can, there's all these spiritual principles, and there's these things that you can do, and there's now meditation and all that, and that all helps. That's all good stuff. If you guys need more practical step-by-step solutions to that, I can do that too. But for now, I just like to give you examples, give you other ways to think about things. Because I sit back and I'll watch these videos, and I look and I see everything that's going on from God to aliens to all this stuff, right? And I see it all progression, and it's all pretty much saying the same thing: choice, 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 choice. So what's the right choice for a new guy like you, for a youngster like you, 19, 20? Well, just remember that every choice you make, it either dims that light or it brightens that light. You know what I mean? Brightens that light or it dims that light. And those are the choices that we make. And I tell you that your choices get easier the more choices you make to brighten your light rather than dim your light. That bring you purity of soul, purity of personality, purity in, that naivety is what we should all attain to have, because that means that we haven't been dimmed already. That naivety. Why should I have to be grown up when I could live as a child and pure in spirit? Hey, not have no worries. Ignorance is bliss, and I'd rather keep it that way because I'm happy not knowing any of that darkness. I'm happy knowing that that my choices are bringing life to people, that bringing goodness to people, that bringing holiness to people, that bring more money to me, that get me better jobs, things like that, and you don't have to wait until you're 40 years old to do it. You could do it right now and just continue on that path, climbing up to the brightness, to the light, to heaven on earth, man. You young guys, man, you're so much closer to heaven on earth than us old guys. Because why? Because we've been beat up so many years, thinking one way, that we have a lot more work to do. You know what I mean? To get back to that holiness, to get back to that purity. Because I've polluted our lives so with all this other stuff that didn't mean anything. Yeah, we could have just took all those extra steps to get back to wholeness out of the equation by, at your age, making choices that kept us closer to clean, closer to pure, closer to bright. To stay there and be pure and shine bright instead of dimming the light and then trying to bring back that brightness again. Redo the lamp and put the wires back together. You don't have to do all that kind of work. You just stay. You got a bright light right now. You keep that thing shining. Keep it shining. Keep it shining. You know what I mean? That's what the whole point of my conversation today is. So, and I do believe in God. So I always talk to him like this. I always talk to him like that. I say, "Hey God, thank you for your example. Thank you for Jesus. He was the example for all of us, man. Of how to keep our lights bright, how to keep our love shining, and that holiness inside of us, Father. That He was the perfect example of what to do and what not to do. Father, and like Buddha or anyone, all those other guys out there, Father, that you gave them as examples for us to live by, so that we didn't have to do all this mechanics later in life and get back to wholeness, Father. So I pray that if there's anyone struggling out there that has a hard time right now getting back to holiness, Father, that you just that your light shine bright on them and you give them the answers that they need. Uh, Amen.